What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. Today we only got one video dropping, and it is going to be the full story of Green Lantern War Journal. This story is going to be following our hero, John Stewart. Now, this Marine has been through a lot. Previously, we had seen John Stewart ascend to what is called being ascended. Now, Lunar made sure to let him know that he's not a god, but he also can wield extraordinary power. He was able to harness a god storm. He was able to bring back all the lanterns. You could really see John Stewart kind of like a chosen one of the Source. People that become ascended are more or less chosen from the Source itself. They've been touched by the Source, and this is what grants them this incredible power. But after John Stewart decided to more or less split himself in two, which means John Stewart still is ascended, but he's at half power. One part of him is out there in the cosmos. Really not sure in which direction that they were headed, but the Emerald Knight was going somewhere. When it comes to this John Stewart, he finds himself against the first god. He had returned home. He thought everything was going to be great. But when the Green Lantern Corps was taken over, John Stewart took to the stars. He went to investigate what's happening. This is when he runs into the Radiant Dead, controlled by an evil ultimate power ring, the ring belonging to the daughter of Olgren, Ajana. Olgren is trying to make his return. He wants John Stewart to be his vessel, and so to save the universe, to save himself, John Stewart must defeat a god. So make sure you guys have subscribed to the channel, make sure that you like this video, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up at the space station, with the station orbiting around Earth. We pick up with a young astronaut, as she is out here doing a spacewalk, repairing any repairs that she needs to do. Everything seems to be going pretty well, but that's when communications start to go out, with a giant purple blast. Not only does she become untethered, but there is an oxygen leak. They lost the solar array on the space station. They have come to the conclusion that they are venting oxygen, and with those oxygen lines broken, fires are breaking out. They beg for the astronaut on the spacewalk to find it and plug it up, because these fires are getting out of control. But that purple blast, it wasn't just lights. There was something else. There was a ring, the ring of the Revenant Queen. As this young astronaut reaches out towards it, she says that it is a doorway, that this ring is all she can see and it is speaking to her. With her reaching out, she grabs hold of it, and she bursts into purple flame. This ring is a doorway to the stars, but not their stars. Something so bright that it is blinding, but this is also breathing. It's almost like it is singing to her. The Revenant Queen has found her first Radiant Dead. As the crew burns alive, we see this completely take her over. But as we leave the stars and we head down to Earth, this is where we pick up with John Stewart, back home with his mother. He has been helping her with anything and everything that she might need. And in this time, he has not been a Green Lantern. In fact, the Green Lantern Corps has been taken over by the United Planets. Sector 2814 has been shut down. The United Planets had quarantined the entire planet, and we really haven't gotten an understanding of why they did this in the first place. But as we have seen with Hal Jordan, he is unable to leave Earth. Anytime he tries to fly up to space, his ring shuts off. Now, Hal Jordan's ring is separate from everything else. It has nothing to do with John Stewart, with him reigniting the Lantern Corps, none of it. And so, obviously, there are many mysteries left open, many things that we don't fully understand yet. But John Stewart is here helping his mother, fixing a little bit of everything, whether it's building a fence or fixing the sink. He is keeping his hands busy. But when John Stewart goes outside to grab some of his tools, it doesn't take him long to figure out that there is somebody here. This is when the green light constructs grab hold of him, chains wrapping around his arms. pinning him down to the ground. Jon Stewart is being told that he is under arrest and it is now time to surrender his ring. This is when a Green Lantern by the name of Lantern Varun shows his face. He is a Lantern of the new reorganized Green Lantern Corps of the United Planets, and he is letting Jon know that he is under arrest for unlawful possession of a power ring. The power ring that belongs to the Green Lanterns, which he is no longer a part of. Jon Stewart tries to let him know that he doesn't have a ring, but this Lantern's ring is detecting hard light energies. Every ring wielder on this planet has been accounted for except for Jon Stewart. He also says that he has broken interstellar law, that the home his mother lives in, it is forfeit to the United Planets and all residents inside are under arrest. And Jon Stewart, he may have gone along with this for a little bit, but now this guy is threatening his mom. This is where the chains break off of Jon Stewart. He tells this Lantern that I understand you're not from around here. You don't know the culture, you don't know what our people have been through here. He tells this Lantern that if you ever try to put me in chains again, you better know how to use that ring before you do so. This is where Jon Stewart starts to have his constructs coming up. He hits this Lantern and he does not stop. After only a handful of punches, this Lantern is yielding. Jon Stewart, he is in absolute disgust. Because you yield already. You took a couple of punches, what kind of Lantern are you? Jon Stewart lets this guy know that he doesn't need a ring anymore. The Guardians would have known that. But he's sending this guy back with a message to tell the United Planets and all these other fake Lanterns that he doesn't have a ring, that he doesn't owe them anything. And if any of them want to come looking for a fight, he will show them exactly what a real Lantern can do. With Jon Stewart going back inside talking to his mother constantly asking about little Ellie. He doesn't have the heart to tell her that Ellie is not here anymore. And so he creates a construct that looks exactly like her to give his mother some comfort. This way she doesn't have to deal with the trauma of remembering what happened. This is what has kept Jon Stewart away from all of the things going on. He may be ascended, he may be a living freaking battery, but his obligations right now are to his mother. This is what takes us back up to space. The space station now in rubble, but with a giant blinding light. This is where we have the arrival of Lantern Shepard. And as Shepard gets aboard, he quickly sees that the Radiant Dead are here. It has taken over all of the astronauts. As the Radiant Dead make their attack, we see Shepard fight them off. As he battles, he recognizes that part of this station is missing. If part of this fell to this universe's Earth with Radiant Dead aboard, that means the Radiant Dead are now on Earth. And his ring is letting him know that he is wasting time here. That if the Radiant Dead had reached Earth, they are now on borrowed time, because this battle won't be won here. The only way to destroy the Radiant Dead is to kill their queen. To find her, they have to find the one that she is looking for. Lantern Shepard has to go out and find Earth Zero's Jon Stewart. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up at the Amazon rainforest. We have the Green Lantern that Jon Stewart beat the living crap out of. Part of the new United Planets Green Lantern Corps. He has come back down here because he intends to teach Jon Stewart a lesson. He has brought with him 2 other Lanterns of this new corps. And we learn as they have conversation that these new Green Lanterns, they come from some kind of royalty in the universe. If nothing else, they come from money. They come from a lot of money. Some of them even meant to rule homeworlds one day. And so these guys are out here doing all of this to try and prove something. Kind of checking the box on civil service, if you will. They have come here because they found something that was teeming with hard light energy. They assumed that this was Jon Stewart. They say that all of the rings in the quarantine zone are accounted for. They believe that Jon Stewart still has a ring, that he was simply lying, and that this wreckage is going to prove it. As they look around the wreckage, what they find is an individual that appears to be hunched over, seeing humans as lesser life forms. This blonde woman says that she smells little lanterns, having the stink of Oa all about them. We see the Radiant Dead lash out, attacking each of the lanterns very quickly and overcoming them. this Dark Lantern, because that's what we're gonna call them for right now. We will call them Dark Lanterns because we don't actually know much about them. We know that these aren't Black Lanterns or anything of that nature. We just know that these are a type of undead, hive mind-like lanterns. And hearing the name John Stewart, the Radiant Dead are now going after him. They plan to punish the Guardian and the Builder, known as John Stewart. This is what takes us to Steelworks Tower in Metropolis. John Stewart is here because he has been offered a job. John Irons is offering him a position at Steelworks Tower. As they begin to walk around and look at everything this place has to offer, they go into the workshop. And what is here is what they call the Sky Rails. This is just a concept so far, but it is a zero-carbon monorail. It runs 30 meters above the street. They are powering this using what is called Genesis. Now, for those that have been keeping up with the Superman comics, you know that Genesis comes from the homeworld that is Warworld. And Steelworks has been working on the applications of using Genesis for good. As they begin to investigate this, we have John Stewart who begins to really dissect this whole monorail situation, talking about how friction is still very much a problem. He goes into very creative ways on how they might handle this situation. And John Irons must admit, for an architect, he talks a lot like an engineer. John Irons has heard everything that he needs to hear, and he says that you need to come work for us immediately. And so as Stewart and his mother, they take off. They head back home. They talk about possibly moving here to Metropolis. After seeing Metropolis after all of this years, John Stewart's mother is absolutely amazed at how beautiful this city has become since Superman's arrival. But while they have these conversations, debating on whether they're gonna move or John Stewart's mother is going to stay where she is and let John go out and get this job, do better in life, so on and so forth, that is when the train is attacked. They are attacked by the Radiant Dead. As they begin attacking, John Stewart does everything he can to protect his mother. As these individuals tear apart this train, he refuses to let any of them hurt his mother. We see him power up. He begins to fight back. He takes this fight up into the air, away from the train. As he beats down most of these individuals, there is still one left standing, and it begins to introduce itself, saying that it is grateful for their first meeting. So it appears it has all the memories of when John Stewart and this lantern had fought prior to being taken over by the Radiant Dead. But it is now under the command of its mistress. The mortals have named her the Revenant Queen, and she knows who John Stewart is. He possesses a weapon that she desires above all. He tells this dead lantern that I don't need a ring, but then it tells John Stewart, neither does the Revenant Queen. With this dead lantern manifesting some kind of weapon in his hand, he stabs John Stewart in the arm, and he says that it is done. In another life, Stewart was her greatest enemy, the living Watchfire, the one that kept the Radiant Dead at bay. But now that he has been stabbed, it appears he will become one of them, and every living thing will fall after John Stewart falls. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we pick up on the planet Durlaw. We have a whole planet of refugees that are coming in, and they are all greeted by Lord Premier Thoros. Now, Thoros is the leader of the United Planets, and he is here welcoming all of these refugees to his planet, giving them a safe haven, an opportunity to start anew. But we quickly learn that his plans are much more sinister, that he is doing all of this so that this refugees and the Queen, they will accept their warship contract. But this is when the Lord Premier gets some information. The Green Lantern known as Varan, newly appointed Green Lantern by the Lord Premier himself, he went out on his own little cowboy mission. He went to the quarantine sector of 2814. And he has not been heard from again. Now, the Lord Premier knows that this is dangerous grounds. He comes from a very high family, and their influence helps keep the Lord Premier where he is, keeps him seated in the seat of power. So he gives the order to gather a team of lanterns of their choosing, ones that they trust, and then go find this missing Green Lantern. And if you can't find him, if he is not alive, then find somebody to blame. This is what picks us up with John Stewart, and he is currently with Lantern Shepherd. Right now, he is teaching John Stewart how to use the ring to traverse his own mind. The John Stewart from his world called it Soul Trek. It's a walkabout inside one's own essence, a way to heal wounds and trauma. But inside of his essence, the depths of the Radiant Dead's infection seem very troubling as we see the ground begin to crumble. The Radiant Dead come for John Stewart. And so John and Lantern Shepherd together, they wield their power rings and they fight against the horde that is descending down on them. As they fight, John recognizes that Lord Shepherd has some pretty unique skills when it comes to his power ring. But John Stewart still sees a shortcoming. He has an over-reliance on the ring, like many young lanterns. Now, Shepherd would say that this is their only weapon. How can you use it as an over-reliance? This is where John tells him that you better hope that's not true. While a ring is a very powerful tool, your most powerful tool, your most powerful weapon is your team, is your plan, is knowledge of your adversary, of the terrain, of time. All of these things take place. Now, this is the Marine Recon inside of John Stewart coming forth. In the military world, we refer to this as MET-TC, and that stands for Mission, Enemy, Time, Terrain, Troops, and Civilian Considerations. All of this comes into play when you are planning a battle or an assault or attack or anything of that nature. And so he tells Shepherd that if you're only trying to use your ring, if you want to win only by brute force, then you have a lot to learn. But even with their valiant efforts, they fail. This is what picks us up in the skies above Metropolis. Lantern Shepherd is currently encapsulating John Stewart. He tells John Stewart that they failed and they are out of time, that there is no hope. If you turn, the entire universe dies. But John Stewart doesn't want to hear that there is no hope. You cannot call yourself a Green Lantern. You cannot come from a world of miracle lanterns where you're capable of so much, but then tell me that this is hopeless. With Shepherd going on to let him know that it uses your will against you. How are you supposed to fight this? When a lantern is turned, not even the ring can escape. It is severed from its battery, from the core. It dies along with the lantern. And this is new information. The ring is severed from the central battery and it becomes useless. This means the fight with Varin and the others. They lost limbs. Losing those limbs, they lost their rings. And Lantern Shepherd has one of these dead rings. Now, he intended to burn it, but John Stewart, before being a fighter, he was a builder. Not only that, but he has access to the best workshop in Sector 2814. This is what takes us to Steelworks Tower. We pick up with Steel and John Stewart, currently examining this dead ring. Now, Steel says that this ring, this is the exact point where technology becomes magic. There's circuitry in there, but calling it circuitry, it is hilariously short. It is more like a pocket dimension, governed by the mind rather than laws of physics. At the end of the day, this thing is still a machine though, one that has been cut off from its user, its battery, and the rest of the core. This theoretically opens the door to jump-starting the ring with a new power source. That power source is going to be Genesis. Now, if you've been following the Superman comics, you know what Genesis is. It is the power source used to bring the refugees from Warworld here to Earth. A source of power so great, they don't even know what to do with it yet, but it has infinite potential. As they discuss this, we begin to see John Stewart turning, the infection grabbing hold of him. He tells everybody to clear out, that he's going to test this one way or another, regardless if it takes his life. Him dying here would be better than the alternative, which would be him succumbing to the infection. But Lantern Shepherd decides that he's not leaving John Stewart's side. The builder sent him to save this world, and he can't do it without John Stewart. If they are going to die, they are going to do it together. This is where we see the Genesis energy beginning to stabilize, and it is more than ready. The ring begins to respond. Something begins to happen as the power surges in all directions. Steel yells to shut it all down. The only problem, it's already turned off. At this point, it's operating on its own. The ring is doing all of this. As Jon Stewart begins to transform into the Radiant Dead, he can see the ring. He knows that the ring is not broken. It just needs a will to harness. Jon Stewart running directly at the ring, we see the Radiant Dead peeling away from his body, and he is transported yet again. Another soul trek. Only this isn't his essence. This is the essence of Varyn, and he is in a place that he should not be. Varyn, recognizing that Jon Stewart hasn't fully turned yet, he is also wielding Varyn's Green Lantern ring. Not sure how this is even possible. Jon Stewart reminds him that he hasn't needed a ring for quite a while, but after being infected by the Radiant Dead, that wound kinda changed things for him. It appears that all of their powers are drawn from the same place. The only problem is Jon couldn't access it anymore without turning into the Radiant Dead. That is, of course, unless he found another ring. One untethered to a battery to him or any other lantern. And so he thanks Varyn, saying that he couldn't do it without him. And we see the two begin to brawl. Jon letting him know that he was never cut out to be a Green Lantern, that Varyn may be a killer, but he's not a fighter. As they battle, we see Jon Stewart return to the land of the living. Jon Stewart is back, the infection is gone, and the ring is now his. But more than that, it still has a connection to the Radiant Dead. He can feel them, he can now find them, which means it is time for Jon Stewart and Green Lantern Shepherd to begin their hunting. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up in Metropolis at Steelworks. Jon is just simply saying thank you to Steel for looking after his mother. She is woken up, and he is just now learning of this. But because she is woken, there is something else that is going wrong. Her injuries have gotten worse. She has begun to hallucinate. Needing to go look for himself, Jon Stewart goes inside to talk to his mother. As he begins to have conversation, she freaks out, asking where is Ellie? Where is Ellie Rose? In an absolute panic, terrified, Jon does what he can to calm her down, to let her know it's gonna be okay. Walking into the other room, we see him manifest a recreation of Ellie herself, telling himself a Green Lantern can do anything. A light construct looking exactly like Ellie Rose. Kneeling down and asking her, does she understand what she is? And what this is, what this hard light construct really is. It is a manifestation of Jon Stewart's heart, his mind, his memory, and most of all, his will. It is a piece of Jon Stewart, imbued with his power and his love for his mother. And Ellie would die before anything happens to Mama. Jon Stewart has left behind a piece of him looking like Ellie, being the ultimate protector for his mother. This is what takes us to the Amazon rainforest. As they walk through, they see that a village has been absolutely decimated. And on the ground, there is a symbol. This is the mark of the Dark Stars. Lantern Shepherd, he lets us know that this is a different kind of Lantern Corps, one that he himself was part of once. He once would have said that they have nothing to do with the Radiant Dead, but now he's not so sure. As they walk through the forest, they can feel them. They can feel the Radiant Dead all around them. They keep their eyes open. They keep their eyes peeled. Jon Stewart can feel Varyn is close. This is when the two lanterns are ambushed. They are ambushed by members of the new Green Lantern Corps, the Green Lanterns of the United Planets. They know that that ring belonged to Varyn. They had been sent to find Varyn or avenge his death. That is exactly what is about to go down. Now, Jon Stewart tries to talk to them, saying that this isn't the time nor the place, that they are on the same side, that they have to talk because either way, this is gonna go bad. After hearing that Varyn is dead, they get ready to open fire, but then they hear the voice of Varyn. But his voice sounds broken, sounds evil, sounds dark. Seeing all these fresh lanterns for the taking, the Green Lanterns of the United Planets all get attacked at the same time. But even more than that, we have the arrival of the Revenant Queen, calling out to Jon Stewart saying that he has finally come. But he has already come too late. She says that this planet is now hers. down to its very core. He was so focused on the infection that was spreading in his body, he never saw the light devouring his very world. Alright gang, we pick up in the midst of battle. The Revenant Queen and her forces, they charge on John Stewart and the Shepherd. Now there are a couple of individuals that are Green Lanterns of the United Planets, but these guys are not tested in battle. They lack the willpower to actually fight this fight. John Stewart knows that firepower alone against these numbers, they're not gonna win it. That they have to take down the Revenant Queen, as John Stewart begins to put up giant barricades, like constructs of helicopter Apaches coming in and just carpet bombing. This is when the Revenant Queen releases some kind of giant creature, some kind of arachnid climbing over this wall. This is where John Stewart sends giant blasts right through the monster. The Shepherd releasing his power, fire-breathing light constructs coming in and just decimating this thing, absolutely destroying it. This is when Varin comes up to John Stewart and tries attacking him. John Stewart really being done with this guy. He goes straight Gundam, a mechanized monster with two giant hammers as the hands, and he smashes Varin. But the thing about Varin and his species is they are shapeshifters, that even being smashed, it is not enough to kill their species. And when Varin was connected through the ring, he saw a great deal of John Stewart. As soon as this dude mentions John Stewart's mama, bro, John Stewart blasts him. Like a Mega Man cannon, he blows Varin away, completely incinerates him, afterwards saying, "Don't talk about my mother." But as he goes to get back into the battle, we see one of the lanterns, they get attacked. And in this attack, he cuts off his own arm, telling the ring to let the United Planets know what happened here. The ring saying, "Space Sector 1417 scan for replacement sentient initiated." The battle raging on, we see Shepherd gets wounded fatally, thinking that they could have had this battle, that they could have won this fight, that they were enough to handle the Revenant Queen. The Shepherd has fallen. John Stewart coming in and grabbing his body. The ghost of Kyle Rayner still talking to him, still talking to John Stewart through the ring, letting him know that Shepherd is badly infected. It will only be moments before he turns. And he lets John Stewart know that he came here to save his hero. He knew that he would die here, and he would do it all the same again, telling him that only the Guardian and the Builder could save him at this point. Now, John Stewart, he's tired of people telling him what he can and cannot do, letting him know what his limitations are. This is where he goes and tries something new. Peering into him, what he can see is the light, a sentient light that corrupts flesh. This is what the Revenant Queen is doing. It transforms things into light, like the constructs. Light is the weapon of the Green Lanterns. We build with it, they shield with it, they arm themselves with it. This is where John Stewart gets an idea. Rather than build with it, could they transform with it? What if they became the light itself? This is where John Stewart becomes the light construct. He becomes the light of will, too bright and too strong to be corrupted. And with this, he becomes incorruptible, a light so powerful that any of the Revenant Queen's armies that stand before him now, they disintegrate before his eyes. And a lantern that is made from light would become invincible himself. With John Stewart touching the chest of Shepherd, Shepherd comes back to life. The infection has been cleared. Asking what happened here, John lets him know that you did it. You came here to save me and my world, and today we're gonna win. John Stewart, still glowing, turning to the Revenant Queen, saying, "Before I put you in the ground, why don't you tell us who you are and what all of this has to do with the Dark Stars?" The Revenant Queen saying that she has taken many hosts. No mortal shell can contain her power for long, but this body that she possesses was a spacefarer. All of her thoughts and memories now belong to whoever possesses her body. This power came to know John Stewart once it possessed the wife as its host, with its unborn child inside, a lantern herself. on her world. But this power is much more than that. This is Olgrun. Now, Olgrun is the power that we saw on Warworld, a god of gods. The power of Olgrun currently in the Super Twins, or at least a part of the power. And we have already seen some people try to come for this power. You gotta read the Superman comics to be keeping up with all of that. But Olgrun lets us know that the Radiant Dead are not constructs. They are a window which Olgrun's light may pass through it. And now that he has Jon Stewart, he will be able to reclaim his place as the God of Gods. Grabbing hold of Jon Stewart's leg, they all disappear, and Shepard is left behind, wondering what just happened. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we pick up with Jon Stewart searching in the dark for his ring, calling out for anybody that might answer, but he only hears his own echoes. Climbing to the peaks in this darkness, he finds his ring. As he slips, that ring begins to fly right to his hand. With it back on his finger, Jon Stewart Green Lantern is here. He finds himself surrounded by some kind of life forms that look like they mean to kill him. As he tries to make his escape, he talks to his ring. Trying to find a way out, the ring has no idea where he is. The mineral formations, none of this found in the ring's database. The ring is able to surmise that no other lantern has ever been exposed to this environment. The life forms are also not found. The language is not detected, hightailing it up and trying to get a bird's eye view, getting up to the stars. Jon Stewart looks up, and he doesn't recognize the sky. They have literally become off the map. The ring can't even recognize any of the star formations. But then he hears a voice, telling him that the dark star of Finn is no star at all. A man sitting here on one of these desolate rocks. He tells him that that star is a breach in space-time. It's a gateway to another world, one where horrors dwell. But he also knows who Jon Stewart is, referring to him as Builder. Now, Jon at this point wants to know who this guy is, how did he get here, and where is the Revenant Queen? This guy's name is By Law, the Revenant Queen. She is not far away. There is a war being fought, one that will decide a great deal. A war between gods, fought by mortals. And then we are taken back down to Earth. We pick up with Jon Stewart's mother. We see that this little piece that Jon Stewart left behind, a piece of him creating Ellie, someone for his mother to talk to. The only issue, this has gotten kind of out of hand. There seems to be something wrong with this little girl. Here at Steelworks, we have the house made out of a light construct. Lantern Shepard and the others are here trying to figure out what Ellie is up to. As the conversation gets a little bit heated, this Ellie says not to speak to her like she is a child, because she is as much Jon Stewart as Ellie, and a child of Oa. This conversation doesn't end well. It ends with Ellie going inside and slamming the door in their faces. They really want to do what is best for Jon Stewart's mother, but Ellie isn't allowing them inside, isn't allowing them to help out in any way. As Lantern Shepard begins to take off, he lets us know that he is going to go find some other lanterns, that he needs to find Jon Stewart, but he can't do it alone. Someone Jon Stewart trusts more than anybody. As we pick back up with Jon up in this lost part of space, still not recognizing anything, the ring also not seeing any kind of star formation it recognizes. He thinks his only option is to try to leave. But as he does so, he tries to fly as hard as he can, but something pulls him back. Almost as if there's a gravity wall stopping him from leaving. That's exactly what By Law tried to tell him. The Dark Star is shielded by a gravity storm that won't permit anything to escape. But then Jon looks down and what he sees is a battlefield. Soldiers preparing for war. By Law says that most of these people aren't even soldiers. Scientists, explorers, everything else in between. All trapped here just like Jon Stewart. With enough years here, they become just like the Finn. Those mindless creatures that were chasing him in the tunnels. This is when the star, it erupts. A giant boom, and out of that star comes a monster. The Radiant Dead were simply just the beginning. This place is a battle line that must be held for the sake of the whole universe. And if Jon Stewart fails, all will fail. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we pick up with Lantern Shepard. He has made his way to Baltimore, to the house or apartment of Guy Gardner, Coming up to the door, it sucks him in, a green light construct grabbing hold of him and bringing him into the apartment, and then surrounded by deadly light constructs armed to the teeth, with Lantern Shepherd asking if this is Guy Gardner. Nearby, we have a little light construct of a camera set up where Guy Gardner is talking to him. Guy is letting him know that he is currently off-world, and we know that Guy is trying to hunt down Lobo. This is where Shepherd lets him know that Guy Gardner was one of his greatest teachers. He watched as Guy from his world had given his life in the Battle of Watchtower. And that's when Guy pretty much goes on like you're one of those multiversal guys. How much he hates those guys, telling him that he's got the wrong house, that he's got to get out of here. But he lets him know that John Stewart is missing, that Stewart said that Guy was the one he trusted more than anybody else there was. Shepherd doesn't know where to start looking, and so he wants the help of Guy to try and find him. That's when Guy tells him to go into the back of the closet and look for something there, that there is something there that may be able to help him. As we pick up at the Dark Star of the Fin, we have monsters that look like the Radiant Dead, and it appears to be aliens and humans alike fighting side by side against these monsters, doing everything they can to hold them off. These monsters are demanding the exile. As this all goes on, we have the arrival of John Stewart. He lets them know that I have no idea what's going on, I don't know the backstory, but walking into this situation, I can obviously tell who is the good guy and who is the bad guy. They immediately recognize John Stewart as the builder. John Stewart does recognize that these guys aren't the Radiant Dead. They may look like it, but these are the children of he who authored the universe. The children of his very mind, of Olgren, and they are demanding the exile. Now, John Stewart doesn't know who the exile is, but this is where we see him become pure energy. He lets them know that you are in no position to give me orders. You are the ones that were ready to murder unarmed combatants. That means they're not going to be friends. As John Stewart turns into a giant armored Gundam, he fights against the children. He unleashes hell upon them, and they go into a hasty retreat. As the people cheer on John Stewart, he lets them know that he is no savior. He is no messiah, that he is simply a man that is trying to get home, just like all of them. As we pick up at Steelworks, we have John Stewart's mother and little Ellie. Now we know that Ellie is a light construct of John Stewart's creation as she gets tucked into bed. All of this for the benefit of John Stewart's mother. As she goes to her room, this is where she sees somebody at the door banging to get in, banging at the window to get in. This is Henry. He is not supposed to be alive. As it bangs harder and harder, we know that this has got to be something to do with Olgren, something to do with the Radiant Dead, something that's trying to get at John Stewart's mother. But amidst all the chaos, this is when Ellie comes in and everything disappears. Ellie comforts her and lets her know that it was nothing more than a bad dream. But on the outside of the house, we have an entire light construct of a tactical team here. They say that the perimeter is secure. The Radiant Dead Lantern named Varin is here to protect Shirley Stewart at all costs, to alert the Steelworks. Nothing will approach this residence, calling out to John Stewart, telling him that his mother needs him. But as we pick up with John, he is introduced to the science officer in She. These people all got trapped here when they got too close to the Dark Star. They were pulled into its orbit, and the gravity is too strong they cannot get away. From what their systems tell them, this place exists outside time and space. That they don't even need food here. That there is some kind of atmosphere, but their instruments cannot detect it. The Finn believe that this place is an afterlife. That when they are all worthy, they will be called into the Dark Star. The Dark Star itself, it is growing. It grows bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually, it will expand everywhere. But with John Stewart being the builder, they believe that he can defeat or destroy the Dark Star. This is something he doesn't even know where to begin. From the shadows, we hear a familiar name. In the shadows, we have By Law. He is letting John Stewart know that he brought this gravity storm. The storm is him, and there is no stopping it while he is alive. He is the exile that they search for. Those creatures keep coming because they want to kill him. Now, if he does die, everyone will have their freedom. But the gravity storm is the only thing that is keeping those creatures contained, and there is no end to them. Without it, the space-time breach they call the Dark Star will grow and grow until poison light is all there is. If he dies, they will all be free, but the horrors of the Dark Star will also be free with them. So if John Stewart wants to get home, he has to help by law find a way to destroy the Dark Star, taking us back to Baltimore with Lantern Shepherd. As he looks around Guy's closet, dirty clothes everywhere, smelly socks all over the place. Guy's letting him know not to let the rest of the Corps know that he's got this fancy setup where he's able to communicate with people even when he's away from home, saying that everyone else would be jealous that he has this. But with Lantern Shepherd going through the back of the closet, this is when he finds it, not believing that Guy Gardner was keeping this tucked away in the back of the closet under dirty clothes. This is the Book of Oa. If they want to know where John is, if they got questions about the Revenant Queen or the Dark Stars, this book will contain all the information that the Guardians had. This is their best chance for an answer. Alright gang, so as we pick up with this issue, we are picking up on Earth in Guy Gardner's apartment. Shepard has found the Book of Oa, asking the book, where is John Stewart? It doesn't say anything. Now Guy is trying to let him know that this thing's not a fortune teller. It's a history book. It may not know where John Stewart is, but you can continue to ask it questions till you get the answer that you're looking for. So when asking about the Radiant Dead, the Book of Oa knows nothing of this. When asked about the Revenant Queen, the book also doesn't know anything about it. But when he asked the question about the earliest mention of the Dark Stars, this is what takes us down a history lesson. Before the time of lanterns or manhunters, the ancestors of the Guardians searched for a power that would bring order to the universe. One Maltusian expedition traveled deep into uncharted systems. They were investigating a gravitational anomaly with no apparent source. And when they found the anomaly and they approached, they passed through a veil of dark matter. Here they discovered a city in the stars, a silent monument to a fallen god, to a fallen goddess. And tending this is a lonesome watchkeeper. Now, the captain of the ship obviously wanted to try to take this power for his own, but the watchkeeper told them that this was forbidden and turned them away. That this city was sacred, that it must never be desecrated, lest the will of the elder god be awakened. But of course, the captain came back with a bigger force. They defeated and imprisoned the watchkeeper, and this sacred city now belonged to them. But in the crypt of the fallen goddess, a light appeared and it began to grow. A cold, otherworldly light that would become to known as the name, the Dark Star of Finn. This is what picks us up with John Stewart. As they observe the Dark Star, they all try to get to hiding, that they need to get underground before the Dark Star flares again. But as they're evacuating everybody, we see that one of their own fighters is about to turn, that he is turning Finn. He is becoming one of them. The light from the Dark Star, it is poisoning all of them. In time, every single one of them will turn if they stay under the light of the Dark Star. And once they turn, they sabotage everything. They signal the riders to where they are. This is what it is to live here. That if they don't leave this man here, everybody will die. And so while they leave him behind, we pick up with Shepard still doing his history lesson. Now the Maltausians, they decided that they were going to ignore the Watchkeeper's warning, and they were gonna mine this city for its precious stones. When held by one of strong mind, the stone responded to the commands of the wielder, transforming their flesh into living conduits of light and will. They used it to fashion mighty tools. The palindrome, the gauntlet, the helm, the belt. With these tools, these explorers became heroes for a time, using their newfound power in service of order. But they would soon learn that theirs is not the only will that commands this light. Within the light, they had awakened something ancient, something sentient, something far too powerful to control. The legend of the Knights of the Dark Star grew. The Dark Star itself had also grown, brighter than any star, yet as dark as a shroud. The immortal watchkeeper had warned them the terrible will that had been housed in the queen's tomb, the will of her father, the fallen god of gods. And when they desecrated this city, that will was poisoned by his grief, by his fury, his need to punish the trespassers. The Dark Star Knights lost control of their powers, became a conduit of a dimension not of will and light, but of chaos and madness. And in an attempt to control this terrible power, the captain opened the queen's crypt, claimed the vessel of Olgren's will, from which the Dark Star had sprung, a queen's ring. With the captain's dying stroke, she brought the sacred city to ruin, and her living corpse became the weapon of Olgren's wrath. As we pick back up with Jon Stewart, as he talks to the people, he tries to let them know, by law specifically, that this running, this hiding, this isn't winning, but they also don't have the people nor the resources to fight this forever. So there's gotta be an end plan. Asking Bylaw what is on the other side, what is through the Dark Star. Jon should know because he was there. Bylaw was able to pull him back from the abyss. The Irrevenant Queen had taken him there, pulled him into the Dark Star to make him an avatar of a mad god. Bylaw tells him that it was probably foolish of him to get involved in that manner, but he knows Jon Stewart's will is strong, but it is too early to test it against an old god. Now, Jon doesn't really follow up on this besides asking if Bylaw is in fact an old god himself, asking what he did to be stuck here, and Bylaw says that he betrayed a brother. He did it for the sake of the universe, but no matter the reason, he had to face punishment. When it comes to what is on the other side of the Dark Star, it is endless berserkers, nightmare beasts, every one of them reborn every time the Dark Star flares. The Revenant Queen as well. When questioned if the Revenant Queen is still on the other side, Bylaw says that for the purposes of what they're doing, she is the other side. The ring she wears is the essence of Olgren's will. That is where the Dark Star was born from. And so Jon wonders if he went back into the Dark Star, was able to beat the Revenant Queen, get that ring from her, what happens then? Bylaw informs him that getting in there once and getting out alive, that's a miracle. It was a trick that Bylaw did, he can't do again. And Bylaw believes that he may be the one to get all these people back somewhere safe. But the Dark Star is her world. If Jon goes back there, he will fail. That the people that are depending on him, they will all die. This is when they are attacked. Jon telling everybody to get cover, he does everything he can to fight back against them. Telling everybody weapons free. They try to take down these monstrous creatures. From out of the Dark Star rode the glowing shades of 1,000 dead warriors, all at the whim of the mad god Olgren. They fought with great honor on the battlefield, but it came at great costs. Seeing the way that this battle is unfolding, Jon Stewart goes for it. Bylaw tells him not to do it, but Jon doesn't listen. As he cuts through one of these beasts, Jon Stewart heads directly for the Dark Star. As we close out with narration from the Book of Oa. The Knights of the Dark Star were the Malthusians' greatest sin. Their names were stricken from all records, though whispers had persisted. Eons later, when the controllers created their own forces of lawmakers, they named them Dark Stars, after the ancient warriors of legend. The endeavor, though short-lived, one of their members would go on to become a legend in his own right. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up at the United Planet Sector 2814 quarantine line. We have Lantern Shepherd. Right now, he's trying to make his way to Jon Stewart, but he is met by the United Planet's Lantern Corps. While Lantern Shepherd tries to break the line, all of the other lanterns descend down on him, while he struggles to break the line. We pick up in a garden. We pick up with a young girl, Ajna, wielding a ring and giving it to Olgren. She created this help with her uncle, by law, and with the help of a little bit of magic. As we see Jon Stewart here, he's reliving Olgren's memories. This is before Olgren was driven mad, before he became what he actually is now. This is back when he was a creator of worlds. His job was creation. Being the first of the old gods, he went from planet to planet, creating, making something new, making something beautiful. We learn that he just has worlds to create, and this work is a never-ending work. But thanks to this ring, it more or less allows him to teleport instantly back to her, breaking out of this memory. This is where we see Jon Stewart is currently held captive, held in the grasp of Olgren. While this happens, back down on Earth, we have his mother. Slowly but surely, Starshroud has been trying to make its way into the mother's house to take out what Jon Stewart loves. And this assassin is almost successful in doing so, had it not been for Steel breaking down the door. But even with Steel and them fighting against this monster, they are simply not enough. And the last moments, the essence of Jon Stewart, the lantern power that is here protecting his mother, grabs hold of her, and it rushes her out of here, taking us back to the memories of Olgren. We see a planet where Olgren appears to be ready to plant some new life, to create. Jon Stewart sitting here observing all of this happening, but then he sees something else happening. Wearing Ajna's ring, he begins to transform. He begins to change. This is when the shadow of Olgren grabs hold of Jon Stewart, tells him that this is the beginning of the great works, that once he is free and whole, no one will stand in his way. Jon Stewart fighting back, knowing that this isn't even Olgren, more of a poisoned shadow of Olgren, a small essence of him, but still powerful in its own right. But all of this for naught, because Jon Stewart is held in captivity by Olgren. This is more manipulating Jon Stewart's mind, making him believe that he ever had a fighting chance. They plan to use Jon Stewart. They plan to use him as the vessel so that Olgren can return. He is their perfect weapon. As we pick up at the quarantine line, we see that Shepard got his butt beat. It took at least half a dozen or more freaking of the United Planet Lanterns to take him down, but they were able to do so. But when they're interrupted, someone coming in saying that he's gonna take this guy back to HQ. That somebody is Guy Gardner, playing as a double agent working from inside the United Planets. He grabs hold of Shepard and goes to get him out of here so that they can go rescue Jon Stewart. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we pick up the days before he had gone mad, before Olgren became the monster that he would be. They look up to the sky and they see what they call the Radiant Host. This would eventually become the Radiant Dead. These were the peaceful days. Days filled with love and laughter. But as we pick up at the Dark Star of the Fin, we see the Radiant Host turn to the Radiant Dead. Olgren mad and corrupted. His own hand had slayed his daughter, who now clings to his back and does his bidding. Taking us back over to that garden, we see a conversation between Bylaw and Jon Stewart. Because remember, Jon Stewart is reliving the memories of Olgren, but Bylaw has the capability and capacity to talk to Jon Stewart here, letting him know that he is being remade into an avatar of an old god. Everything about him is being rewritten, and once you have been rewritten, there will be nothing left to stop the return of Olgren. That he will use you as a vessel, that he will bring war, conquest. Because after killing his daughter by accident, being tricked into killing his daughter, this is what made him go mad with grief. He would have destroyed all of creation in his madness. And so Bylaw helped the other gods betray him, to unmake him, that if Olgren is able to claim you as a vessel, all worlds will burn as he once burned theirs. As we pick up on Earth, we pick up with the Star Shroud and the little bit of essence of Green Lantern Jon Stewart that is here, taking the form of Ellie. This piece of Jon Stewart is here to be the protector, to protect his mother, while the Star Shroud plans to take away anything and everything that Jon Stewart loves. With this battle ongoing. Now at this point, she is well aware that this is not Ellie. She knows that she gets scared and confused sometimes. She knows that she lost her girl. She knew that Jon was just trying to make her happy. Seeing him happy made her happy, and vice versa. And this piece of Jon Stewart says that I have no ring to give you, no way to truly defend you, but if you let me be your weapon and your armor, guide her with your will. We see Ellie and Jon Stewart's mother fuse together, and now together they will face the dragon. As we pick up at the Dark Star of the Fen, the essence of Olgren thinks that they might have an opportunity to win here. But Jon Stewart, he has been aware this whole time. He has been playing along the entire time. He needed to know what was inside the daughter's ring, what it is, how it works, and what would happen if he destroyed it, or if he failed to destroy it. Now he understands. Having that ring on his fist, the Green Lantern ring on his other fist, he slams them together. Olgren's will was so powerful an entire universe was born from it. His will was one of the old gods still needed. The Necropolis wasn't just a tomb. The technology, the machinery running through its architecture, its reliance on the Genesis mineral. The Dark Star appeared when the Necropolis was destroyed. The Necropolis was a living conduit to commune with the will of Olgren, with the Dark Star ring. That was its vessel and focal point. They believed in great confidence that ring would corrupt Jon Stewart, but it was unable to do so. This is where Jon Stewart takes to the sky, believing he knows how to fix and help these people. We see the Builder begin to rebuild, by law welcoming him back. The two of them finally being able to understand one another. Jon Stewart knows that he is not just a Green Lantern. He is the Guardian. He is the Builder. As we see the Dark Star begin to crack, a building manifests before him. The Revenant Queen trying to tell Jon Stewart the ring bears an aspect of the God of Gods, the will of Olgren itself, that she will strip it from his bones. But amidst all the chaos, his ring detects two Green Lanterns approaching him. As it begins to identify who this might be, on the horizon, we see Guy Gardner and Lantern Shepherd, wielding the Ring of Olgren, wielding his Green Lantern ring, being backed up by Gardner and Shepherd. The final battle is about to take place. Alright gang, we pick up in the final hour. They are doing everything they can to destroy the last of the Radiant host. He knows that they gotta return the Dark Star ring back to Ajin's crypt. This is when everybody can finally go home. This is when the war ends, as our forces storm the crypt, by law leading the charge. When Jon Stewart returns Olgren's ring back to its place, the war will be over. But before Jon can do so, the Revenant Queen grabs hold of by law. It grabs hold of him, and it deals a deadly blow. And the gravity storm that bound the Revenant Queen to this place has finally been broken. The Radiant hosts are free, with Jon Stewart grabbing by law with his dying breath. He tells Jon Stewart that I'm sorry, that this place was meant to be kept secret, to stay hidden, but they can't leave it now. That Jon Stewart must now take the ring. He must take Olgren's ring, keep it safe. But he reminds him that the ring is no mere weapon, not like the rings that you have known. You do not use this ring to fight. You use this ring to command. Back on Earth, we have Jon Stewart's mother, who is more or less bonded with a fragment of Green Lantern Stewart's will. This has turned her into a living, sentient thing, being now repurposed as armor for Jon Stewart's mother. This entity is Varin. Jon Stewart already punked this guy before, and now he's trying to take out Jon Stewart's mom while he's away. But even Jon Stewart's mother, along with this fragment of Jon Stewart, she's holding her own. But with our lanterns back at the Star of the Fen, they battle against the Revenant Queen. She tries to say that Olgren is an inevitability. The seven god aspects will be rejoined, and Olgren's will be upon the universe. That Jon Stewart's fate is sealed. Olgren chose him as his vessel. Before this Earth was even formed, this decision was made. Countless of the Revenant Queen's hosts crumbled to dust as she had hunted for him, and worlds beyond counting. And now at last, he has come to claim Jon Stewart. As we see Olgren's hands coming through the doorway, coming through the portal, Jon Stewart remembers what Bylaw told him. Olgren's ring isn't like a Green Lantern's ring. A Green Lantern's ring is used to build. Olgren's ring is used to command the children of his will and mind. So long as this ring belongs to Jon Stewart, he doesn't need to destroy the Revenant Queen. He apologizes for what had happened to her. A once kind, beautiful, and brilliant person. He knows that she was never meant to be this. But Jon Stewart is able to lock her and all of the Radiant Dead away. They still exist, but they can't come back here unless Jon Stewart brings them back. When he rebuilt the necropolis, he pulled their ships together. The engines are still inoperative. There has been no fuel in them for years, but he reminds them that they don't run on fuel anymore. Jon telling Guy and Shepard that they gotta get back to Earth. When he took control of the Radiant, he saw something that demands their help right here, right now. And he's not talking about getting to Earth fast, he's talking about getting there right now. Using Olgren's ring, it appears that he can open up some kind of gateway or waypoint that allows him to step through time and space. More or less teleportation. But as we pick up on Earth, Varin and the fragment of Jon Stewart and his mother together battling against this monster. She uses her shield. She uses her lance. And while she battles, Varin was completely unaware that our lantern showed up, with Jon Stewart punching his fist right through the head of Varin. With a giant purple light explosion, Varin dissipates. Now Jon rushing over to his mother. He removes the infection of the Radiant Dead from her neck, prevents it from spreading any further. He now controls this. And Jon, of course, apologizes to his mother for not being here, and she tells him that you don't have to, that you're serving a much higher purpose, that what you're doing has to be more than me, more than yourself. But when his mother says that you have to let me go, he says that he doesn't have to do anything, because a Green Lantern can do anything. This is what takes us to weeks later, and we pick up with this fragment of Jon Stewart and Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart's been keeping a close eye on her. The way her design elements repeat across the structure, it's looking more and more natural all the time. She's also beginning to take on a lot of Ellie's mannerisms. He's trying to figure out why all this is happening. Technically, she came from Jon Stewart, not the original Ellie. So he's trying to figure out what all of this really means. And when Jon Stewart activates his ring, what we see is that he more or less took his mother's consciousness into his ring. His mother has become the AI in the ring, if you will. So his mother is always with him, at least in a sense. And then he also has Ellie, though it may not be the original Ellie. It's a construct, a fragment of himself. And this is only a testament to how freaking powerful Jon Stewart has become. In a roundabout way, he is resurrected and given immortality to Ellie and his mother. Now, you could argue that they're not flesh and bone, but that doesn't negate the fact that they are very much who they are. And this could get us down the debate on, is true AI actually worth protecting as much as humanity, as much as human life? That when it gets to a point that you can't even necessarily differentiate, can you not call that a person who has a type of immortality? But with one story ending, Jon Stewart's story is definitely not coming to a close. A whole world to explore, a whole universe to go after. This is simply the next chapter for our Green Lantern, Jon Stewart. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Jon Stewart's adventures will be continuing in Green Lantern issue number 15, we can assume with a Absolute Powers tie-in, and in Green Lantern Civil Corps coming this fall. Now I'm going to be the first one to say it. If Jon Stewart has any issues with these Amazo bots, I'm going to be livid. Like, I'm gonna still buy it because we're covering it here on the channel, but I'll call BS real quick. Jon Stewart just took on an old god. Granted, a fragment of an old god, but an old god nonetheless. Not only that, he owns Olgren's ring now. One of the fragments of Olgren's power. He controls the Radiant Dead. He controls an army of the living freaking dead. You can't introduce him in absolute power. What are you talking about? He can come in and mop up the floor in a split second. But more than that, we're also seeing how powerful Jon Stewart is. Manifesting Ellie, taking his mother's consciousness into his ring, more or less making her the mind behind the ring. And I'm sure that she'll be bestowed a grand amount of knowledge or whatever the ring knew beforehand. At least we can assume this. And this is what it looks like, but we're gonna see how it unfolds. Nevertheless, I see dark times on the horizon for Jon Stewart. I feel like this ring is going to end up corrupting him, that he's gonna think he can save everybody. He brought his little sister back to life. He is able to make his mother immortal. He took down an old god. Having that ring attached to his finger, I think it is only gonna cause trouble, that it is going to lead to something of a disaster. I think this is going to lead us into something like Blackest Night. Consider everything going on with the emotional spectrum, with the Lord Premier, and then Hal Jordan out here getting a set of rings completely separate from anything and everybody else, them having their own central battery protected on Earth that nobody but Hal Jordan knows about. I think Jon Stewart might become a villain in the near future. He has amassed a grand amount of power. He's become ascended. The Radiant Queen said pretty adamantly that Jon Stewart is fated to be Olgren's vessel. I think that this is going to happen in the future. At this point, I think it's just a matter of time before it does. All in all, this was a pretty good series. I gotta say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have loved seeing Jon Stewart on the rise. Coming up from just a grunt, to becoming a Green Lantern, to becoming ascended, to being able to take in the Godstorm, to facing Olgren. He sure as hell has become one heck of a powerhouse. And if he gets corrupted to the dark side, it's gonna take a lot more than Amanda Waller and Amazo 2.0's with failsafe to stop his wrath. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you want to get caught up on everything that has been going on with Jon Stewart, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It'll get you completely caught up on everything that has been going on with this series. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having multiple different tiers, from $1 to $50, from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel tremendously, but you are getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you're unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.